Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon. My name's Chelsea and I'm from the product marketing team here at OAG. And I wanted to say a very warm welcome to our first product webinar of 2022. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take you through how our API can transform your travel data and insight. So with millions of status updates and schedule changes daily, keeping travelers informed at every stage of their journey is a vital ingredient in minimizing disruption and maximizing revenues. So just taking a look at the agenda here, we're going to give you a quick overview of the travel ecosystem and highlight some of the key data challenges that we see people face when accessing aviation data. We'll then provide insight on how our API solves those challenges before sharing some real use cases on how a wide variety of businesses utilize our API every day to provide exceptional experiences for their customers. So we'll hear from the OAG product team throughout this session. So we've got Sarah Beesley, Head of Product, alongside Ross Paterson, Product Director. We'll have a Q&A at the end, but if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please just pop them into the chat. And as always, you will receive a copy of the session in your inbox after the webinar in case you want to rewatch. And so let's now hear from Sarah about the travel ecosystem and the different components within that.
Great, thank you Chelsea, and welcome everyone onto this product webinar today. As we all know, the travel ecosystem is expanding and is getting more and more complex. We've certainly seen that from the last 18 months to 2 years, and over the volume of data that's been created, consumed and analysed, we can see is continuously growing. We know that data is required across multiple sectors and industries for different reasons, and each of those sectors and industries have their own unique requirements. We do know, though, that getting high quality flight data that is as fresh as possible is at the heart of many businesses we work with, and really at the heart of what we're doing here at OAG. With this many sectors and subsectors requiring aviation data, it's no surprise that we have seen that there's lots of challenges faced when accessing that data. Just flicking on to think about some of the ongoing data challenges that we've seen, say heightened especially over the last 18 months to 2 years, but things that had been there, pre-pandemic that we've really kind of seen come to the forefront. So we know it can be lengthy and a disjointed process that businesses need to collate information from more and more sources. We know there can be quite a lot of manual effort involved to combine and analyse this data, which can be a scale inhibitor to companies as they grow. We know, especially as I say, very recently increased data volatility is seen, lots of changes to schedules, status updates, which can result in data quality issues and errors. It's really important to have access to a number of flights, but when you can't always see things like the seat capacity alongside that, it means that you don't know how many passengers are on that particular flight. And also not having been able to access specific seat configurations could often make forecasting and analysis inaccurate too. If it was not possible to offer customization on data frequency, often it was all kind of given at once in one go, which then would take time on your end as a customer to condense and to analyse. And this could all lead to missing vital updates due to delays between logging a change and a customer being notified of that particular change. So we looked at all of these challenges. We've been working with customers doing extensive market testing and validation. We've had development partner feedback over the last couple of years, and we've got to the point where we've now built an API that we feel really meets the requirements of all of the different sectors that we know are interested in the data in this particular format, and really eliminates all of those challenges for customers moving forward. I'll pass over to Ross, who's the product director for the API product itself, and he can go into some more detail about how the API works and the data within it. Thank you.
Cool, thanks Sarah, and thanks everyone for joining us today. So I thought it'd be best first if maybe let's give a high level overview of our Flight Info API before we dive into the customer use cases. So the Flight Info API that we launched toward the end of last year is really aimed at making it as easy as possible for our customers to understand what airlines are planning to do, and then also as equally what's actually happened. So I guess a few key things to point out here are, we have the historical status, so customers can maybe confirm the actual arrival time. We have the planned flight schedules, so up to 2 years ahead, but obviously not all airlines necessarily plan that far ahead, but we have a great outlook on that. The live flight status, if you want to understand what's happening right now with a flight or the ETA. We also have the capacity data, so we can understand, from a capacity point of view, the plan versus the actual capacity on a flown flight. And then also some historical schedules too. And of course, the benefit of being able to combine this within one product also allows you to ask slightly more complex questions. So, how many of the carrier's flights were on time today versus the planned schedule? And of course, this API very much suits across a number of the key journey points. And so you can see we've built an API that serves the full life of booking, whether it's searching or planning, analyzing what happened. And that these data points obviously used in a variety of different ways within the travel ecosystem, be it airports, hospitality, within apps and platforms. So if we move on and look at the 4 customer journey stages that we're going to be talking through today, the first step we're covering is travelers, where they begin to search for their destination and flights. And of course, this search can happen in a number of ways, whether it's traditional travel agents, meta search, online travel agents, or direct with the carrier. And of course, once they've found the right flights at the right price, travelers will then look to book their flight. Next step, maybe kind of a week prior to departure, maybe earlier if it's a longer haul flight or more complex travel. Travelers will then start to make preparations for their trip, making sure they've got documentation, online check-in is done, onward travel is arranged. And then of course, in the closer lead up to 48 hours, maybe before the departure, is when airlines and airports have got all their attention on that passenger's experience and trying to minimize costly disruption as much as possible. And for the last stage, when the passenger arrives at the destination, they will need to have the passenger locator form filled out and may also have to go through border control, of course, depending on where they've originated from. So I think with these kind of key journey points in mind, let's take a closer look at how a few of our customers are leveraging our APIs. So in the first kind of stage of the customer journey, so this is around the searching the booking, that brings us on to Airsiders. So Airsiders is a Berlin-based technology company that provides modern solutions for the air travel industry. Airsiders connects airports, ground handlers, airlines, and distribution platforms to enable seamless virtual interlining. So the challenge here is that connecting flights across multiple carriers has traditionally been difficult and costly and often needs various agreements and integrations. And so Airsiders needed automatic and reliable flight data to power their virtual interlining technology. So they use our Flight Info API to source direct flights that can then be used to create an itinerary for a customer. And their Compass products works out how long the passenger might need to travel from, say, gate A to gate B, just to make sure that their connection is viable. And this technology means that customers can book virtual interlining flights. And the concept of managed virtual interlining is an improvement over the previous model. It makes possible partnerships between full service carriers and low cost carriers, while skipping some of the complexities of the IATA framework. And this approach is also backed up by many tech providers, including Iceland-based TowHop and also Air Black Box, who are headquartered in the UK. And so overall, the outcome here is that it increases the network. It establishes new available routes and allows for cross-selling seats and ancillaries, again, without numerous commercial agreements. And in turn, passengers can buy multi-leg journeys and add services with a single reservation. And so overall, this is offering our travelers a much wider range of travel options. So moving on to the next stage. So this is Uber Reserve. So obviously Uber is American mobility as a service provider based in San Francisco, and they operate in around about 900 metro areas worldwide. And Uber Reserve is one of the newer ride options which has been rolling out globally, and that allows you to request rides 30 days ahead of time. So in 2021, passenger traffic at airports has more than doubled compared to 2020, and of course that's a lot of passengers needing transport to and from the airport. And Uber know that they really need accurate and reliable source of real-time flight data for this reserve product to work. So a key thing here is that to have drivers arrive exactly when they are needed, and of course so that the riders are notified of a potential delay or early arrival, within the Uber app, and that their reservation pickup time is adjusted automatically. And a nice testimonial here that we got from Uber is obviously with millions of status updates daily and with worldwide coverage, they're confident that we were the right people to partner with to power their reserve product. So that covers kind of the onward travel, but coming up to the next one, which is Versa. So this is a Dutch company with a real passion for traveling and new technology. And they've developed a tracking solution with two main goals. So they want to remove the luggage stress for passengers and enable airlines to provide a better baggage service to their customers. In 2019, 2.8 million bags were lost, mishandled or damaged in the US alone. And I'm sure any of you that's experienced this will know the added stress that particularly a lost luggage bag can bring to travel. And so Versa are on a mission to assist airlines in reducing the number of missing bags. But again, they needed a trustworthy source of aviation data to power the tracking solution. So what Versa do is using the flight number, they look that up in our API so that they can validate the passenger's flight details and then schedule the flight tracker on any of the flights up to 365 days in advance. On the day, they also receive real-time status updates from us, so they can accurately update ground handlers with the actual times so that they understand how much time is left to save bags from missing their onward flight. And one of the other nice little features is that using Flight Info API, they can also enable the tracker to automatically go into flight mode, knowing when it's about to take off, and then also how long that sleep can be. So it's off during takeoff, and it also meets the landing regulations. So I think overall a great use of our API, and to kind of particularly help reduce that pain point of travellers having to experience issues with their baggage. I think we probably all wish them well on that mission. And so moving on again, if we thinking about when we're arriving, so Home Affairs or border management departments across the world are responsible for safety and security of their country and often oversee documentation management so they know who is entering the country. So a passenger locator form, or more commonly known as a PLF, is a form that's used by many countries to obtain information about incoming passengers arriving more predominantly via international travel. And it typically requests things like contact, journey details, and also details about their stay. And so kind of the key challenges here are the paper or card PLS are obviously not only bad for the environment, but they do open up room for passenger error, or whoever's completing that information easily get the wrong flight number or typos, that type of thing. And also just from a general passenger experience. So the Department of Home Affairs, what they wanted to do was digitize their passenger locator forms and just make it easier for passengers to enter the country. Also, particularly while things like COVID restrictions are in place or were in place. So now our Flight Info API powers their digital passenger declaration app. So this means that the flight details are validated before the passenger enters the country, and then this makes the overall process easier for the traveller and the staff. Also, the border security company can also use our they do also use our Flight Info API to schedule resources more efficiently. So with the forward-looking data, they can understand volumes of flights or potential capacity of passengers, just to make sure they've got all the right people on hand to reduce waiting times, and of course overall increase the passenger experience. So shifting the focus a little bit onto OAG, why OAG and what makes us different? Well, we've got over 90 years of expertise dealing with complex data. We have an extremely strict quality process, which means that we validate and cleanse the data to ensure accuracy. We receive complex data, of course, from hundreds of sources in multiple different formats across different technologies. And the aggregation, I think, is the key thing here, so that even though there are hundreds or thousands of formats of data coming in, when our customers see the data from us, it's all cleansed, it's all in one easy to process format of data. And then we also will enhance that data with other additional data points that we have. So we mentioned capacity data, things like terminals. We can decode the data, as anyone that will know, a lot of aviation data is all in codes, and also things like minimum connecting times and that type of data. And the other thing is that the modern infrastructure and the partnership ethos that we have means that we can be really flexible with our customers, and we also use a usage-based pricing model. So for any customers that are very much kind of in that startup or growth phase, 100% we can grow along with you.
Thanks, Ross. So we'll now open the floor to any questions that you might have about anything that we've spoken about today. So if you do have any questions, please just pop them in the chat. There was one that came through whilst you were speaking just there, Ross, and it was, how often is the data updated?
Yeah, so within the Flight Info API product, the data is essentially near real time. So, you know, we do have a lot of data checks and validation for the data, but that does happen very fast. And as soon as that data's been through that process, it makes its way immediately into our product, into the API. One of the questions that we've had is around how often customers should call the data. You know, that's going to depend heavily on the use case. Some customers like to query the status of a flight, maybe a flight that's leaving in 4 hours time, maybe every 15 minutes just to confirm. Some customers, maybe on the planned schedule side, will maybe just update once a day. But again, because of the usage-based model, you know, it really fits in with exactly how our customers need to use it.
Great, thank you. And another one that's just come in here is, are the schedules in the API just direct flights, or are there connections in there as well?
Sure, yeah. So actually at the moment it's direct flights, so that can include stopping flights with the same flight number. But actually on the connection side, that's something that the dev team is working on right now. So that will be our next API product release.
Great. And there's another one that's just come in there, and that is, how easy is this to integrate?
Sure, yeah. Okay, so that is going to depend a little bit on, you know, the development capability of any customer, but the feedback we've had so far is telling us that it's really quite easy to integrate. It's a RESTful JSON API, which most developers will be used to working with, and actually something we'll cover in just a minute, but we do also have a developer portal where customers can find more information about the data points, you know, what's available, being able to download schemas and that type of thing. So that's really quite useful. Maybe if we move on, we can look at the developer portal part. So in terms of our kind of maybe next steps for anyone that might be interested in exploring the API, and we'll post the links there in the chat. The developer portal is something where you can just go and simply try out the API for yourself. You can sign up to the developer portal. You can request access to get instant access to our API trial product. You can configure the queries the way that you normally would an API. There's a limit in there of 100 calls or a 14-day period to trial the product. And so yeah, you know, it's a really good way to just get on and have a look. No need to necessarily have to speak to anyone on our side. You can have a bit of an experiment and play around. And of course, you know, if you do need to then ask any other questions, you know, we can get in touch with one of our data specialists, and they can kind of talk you through anything else that you need to. So I think, unless, is there any more questions, Chelsea?
Let me have a look. There is one here that says, does it include low-cost carriers as well as full-service carriers?
Yes, it does. Yeah. So the data that we make available is pretty much absolutely everything that we have, and we do cover low cost and web and the kind of full-service carriers as well.
Perfect. I think that's all the questions there. So.
Cool. All right. Well, look, thanks very much for everyone for joining us. And of course, if you do have any additional questions, or if you wanted to speak to a data specialist, then please do get in touch via our website. Thank you.
Thanks for joining, everyone. We hope you found this session insightful, and we hope to hear from you soon. Take care. Thanks very much. Goodbye.